Valentine Sally, one of Arizona's oldest unsolved Jane Doe cases. A young woman was found dead on the side of a highway decades ago, and to this very day, nobody knows who she is. But is law enforcement any closer to solving this case?
The witness who last saw this girl alive speaking out on camera for the very first time. Brianna Whitney traveling to northern Arizona for tonight's True Crime Arizona.
It was a graveyard shift, and it was in the winter, 2:30 in the morning. She was a pretty girl. She really was, and she smiled a lot. But it's been a long time. But it would be nice if somebody could find a name. It would even put me to rest.
For many, Valentine's Day means love. For Patty Wilkins, it means loss.
Yeah, she's the only one I think about. My husband doesn't get a card. I don't think I even wish my girls, but it's sad.
It's been that way for almost 4 decades.
I wasn't there long enough, but I should have been there longer. I should have done more. What could I have done? What should I have done?
The story begins in early February, 1982. Patty's family owned the Monte Carlo truck stop west of Flagstaff, off I-40 in rural Ash Fork, Arizona. She worked at the restaurant on the property. During her graveyard shift, a man and a blonde girl walked in to eat. They seemed relaxed, nothing out of the ordinary. The man ordered coffee, the girl a water.
Camaraderie between the two of them were like she knew him, and she was comfortable with him.
She believes the man was in his 50s.
The only thing I really got about him was he wore a cowboy hat with a peacock feather in it.
And the girl, she remembers to be 17 or 18, wearing a red and white striped sweater and jeans. She had a toothache, so Patty got her some aspirin. But what was unusual was for young girls to be at a truck stop with men in the middle of the night.
She seemed very comfortable with this gentleman, because I asked her, "Are you okay here? Do you want to stay here? Do you want to leave with him?" And she said, "Yeah, I'll go with him," like it was her grandfather, her father, uncle, some relative.
Patty never saw what truck they came in.
The next thing I heard about was that they found a girl in February the 14th, a mile from my restaurant.
A girl's decaying body found under a tree in the bitter cold. She was only dressed in a pair of jeans with broken belt loops. It looked like she had been dragged. Her sweater and bra were found on the ground nearby.
How did you make the determination that that was the girl you saw?
Well, first they showed me the pictures of the clothes. And yes, I recognized the clothes.
So she was wearing those clothes?
Yes, she was wearing those clothes.
Coconino County Sheriff's deputies questioned Patty about everything she could remember.
I said, "I know that girl." He said, "Can you describe who she was with?" I said, "Yes, I can."
Patty believes she saw Valentine Sally alive here on February 2nd, but her body was found just a mile up the road on February 14th. And detectives believe she was dead for about 2 weeks before she was found.
Then when they interviewed me, he said, "Was there anything outstanding?" I told him about the toothache. And he said, "And what did you do?" "We crushed up a baby aspirin, is all I had, and we put it on that tooth." He said, "What side was it on?" I said, "Left side." He said, "That's our girl." The aspirin was still there.
The assumption was and is that girl was killed shortly after Patty saw her at the truck stop. People started calling the mystery girl Valentine Sally, a name that stuck with her for days, months, and years to follow.
When you first heard of Valentine Sally, what did you think?
It was curious from the onset.
Stan Kephart is a retired police chief and law enforcement expert. He sat down with us to take an outside look at this case from start to finish.
How important is it to solve a Jane Doe case?
It is extremely important.
Sally's death is still a mystery. Suffocation is a working theory, but she didn't have broken bones.
The pressure that comes from the thumbs inward tends to fracture the hyoid bone. That, along with the struggle by the victim, usually will produce a fracture.
One of the greatest identifying features about this girl are her teeth and the known evidence of a toothache with aspirin.
How important can dental records and teeth be in a homicide case in terms of either identification or solving it?
It can be extremely important. Forensically, this is one of the things that is used pro forma to identify a person.
But without a match, it would be impossible. One aspect stumps Kephart, an aspect he believes makes finding a motive to take this girl's life even more obscure.
Are you surprised that there was no evidence of sexual assault?
That is, again, very surprising. What would be the purpose of your anger or a vendetta of some type? I'm speculating now, would be maybe a cause of doing this. That and the way that she died are two of the most curious things in this case.
Patty says she seemed comfortable with the man she was with. That doesn't surprise the former police chief.
What's the likelihood that the man she was seen with is involved in this?
It is highly likely. The victims of homicides, more often than not, are victims from known persons.
2 years later, in 1984, detectives thought they solved the case. The girl was identified as Melody Cutlip, a Florida girl who had run away in 1980. A forensic expert matched bite marks of Valentine Sally to dental records of Melody Cutlip. But Melody returned home alive to her family in 1986. Kephart says the misidentification was a huge case misstep.
It is the fault of the expert presenting something that was flawed and the agency not vetting that person.
This is a cold case. Yet the Coconino County Sheriff's Office, the investigating agency, declined to sit down for an interview about Valentine Sally.
This one is too cold for them to devote the resources that could better be devoted to successful prosecution of somebody that they could take off the street by arresting them.
So you don't believe that they probably have a detective working on this case right now?
No.
What makes this the most difficult?
Time. With the passage of time, memories and forensics and these kinds of things are taken from us.
The girl with no name found a place in Patty's heart. The last person to see her alive didn't want her to be laid to rest as just a number, adding to a long list of missing persons.
We took up a benefit for her so we could get her a headstone.
Patty had it engraved, Valentine Sally.
And we took it up to Williamson and we had a regular funeral for her there.
The how and why she died may always be a mystery. But Patty can only hope in her lifetime the question that's never left her heart and mind will be answered. Who is Valentine Sally?
Somewhere there's somebody had to turn her in as a lost girl, but somebody's bound to have missed her. But it's been a long time.
To hear more of Brianna's in-depth investigations, she does really good work. You can check out our True Crime Arizona podcast, available now on all podcast platforms. We'll be right back.